Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Craig.
For those just joining, I'm attempting to go live, so we'll start here shortly.
Hello,
You are live.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year, Craig. Great. One more thing I gotta check. Change to speaker view so that folks hopefully can see on YouTube better. Hello, my name is Christopher Levitz. I'm the Vice President of Development. This is the Development Group Conversation. This is the second group conversation of the year. I was going to wish everybody a Happy New Year, which I'll still do, but I'll recognize that there was one yesterday, the Product Group Conversation. If you didn't see it, I encourage you to go back and read the notes as well as the video, because it was a pretty good one. And I am getting started with questions. Slide deck is in there. If you have any conversation that you think might be confidential, you can put them down in the public, not public items, if we have anything of that nature, but generally this is a public live stream, and welcome questions at this point. Wayne, are you available to verbalize your question?
Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody. So Christopher, in slide 5, review to merge time was higher in December. Did we see the same increase a year ago? AKA, is it due to vacation time in December and expected, or is there another potential set of causes?
Generally, when we have more vacation days, we do see review time to merge go up. So I want to call that out. In particular, with the graph that you're talking about is the narrow MR rate. And for whatever reason, today I was having trouble getting to 18 months view because it wasn't as simple as going and changing 12 to 18. So we'll have to go back and double check on the narrow MR rate. One important thing to note is that we did have Friends and Family Day in 2020 versus 2019 did not have those days. So we actually had less work days associated with that, which makes our MR rate actually even more impressive in regards to that. So the results for the overall MRs, rather than just looking specifically at the ones authored by our team, show inconclusive information, meaning 1 month it was higher and 1 month it was lower. So it's not necessarily correlated at this point. But also I would expect the less days of work to also affect it. So I think you're onto the right way to think about it. It's not necessarily one-to-one correlation.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Sid has the next question.
Cool. Thanks. I see that thanks for the great presentation, by the way, and video. I see we are looking at a combined front-end and back-end manager. Why is that? What would the team size be? How do we mitigate the risk of career progression? And does this lead to cross-functional teams, which there's some literature I linked about that.
Yeah, sure thing. So let's start with question number 1 and try to go in sequence here. So why are we doing this? What we've been finding is that for team sizes that are small or disproportionate from a front end, back end scale size, what we're finding is that in particular, there's certain teams where we'll have only 1 front end engineer versus 5 back end, or vice versa, 5 front-end engineers with 1 back-end. And what we've been finding is that for those teams, particularly when they're in particular groups, you'll have a manager who is actually managing 4 different work streams associated with it to 4 different people. So what I refer to this is it's not matrix management of the ICs, but it's matrix management of the manager in regards to the fact that they have a number of PMs that they have to work with, and it's a lot of cross-functional as opposed to giving opportunity for focus associated with it. So it's really around the team sizes. Where does this generally fall? It generally falls in teams where we have like a disproportionate ratio. I don't necessarily have a hard rule on this, but team sizes of between 4 and 6, where again the ratio is disproportionate, is where we've seen it from that perspective. So that kind of answers that first part of the question. Kind of the second part with the team sizes. Generally speaking, if we go to like say a 2 to 6, or 3 to 5, generally we're trying to then combine those into a front end, back end functional split associated with it from that perspective. So that's what we're trying to avoid here is situations like that where we'll have a front end manager potentially who is spending a lot of time from that perspective. Does it mitigate risk or lack of career progression on learning? That's actually the biggest concern I have, particularly if you're, well, let's break it up into two parts. Does it mitigate risk or career progression learning for a manager? I think it actually gives a manager an opportunity.
I'm not worried about the manager. I'm worried about, look.
I think it's important to recognize. It's important to recognize both sides of this, right?
So no, but that's not the problem. The problem is I'm an IC and my specialty is A, but the manager specialty is B. Does that manager give me as good of feedback as it will give the A feedback people? No, not as good. But like, how much is that drop off, and how do we mitigate that?
So that's a great question. So the reason why I did the manager is because that's the easy answer. The IC is actually much harder.
So I don't let you talk about that. Like,
so in the case of the IC, what I fundamentally been thinking about is the thought process of active coaching associated with this. So one is making sure that the manager understands that they're responsible for 2 areas of functionality. This is giving them an opportunity, but they have to make sure that they're working on career progression on both sides of that equation. In fact, one of the aspects that I'm looking at is if we do the staff plus IC gearing ratio work, there's only going to be one staff member, and do we have a proportional representation from both front end and back end for that skill set associated with it? So that's one aspect that we're looking at from a career progression. The other aspect is making sure the manager understands to get enough cross-organizational experience where they're getting exposure to other front end engineers within the group. So that they can potentially focus on it. So it's active management of the manager to make sure that they're working on both sides of that equation by either a senior manager or a director, depending on what the reporting structure is in that particular part of the organization, to focus on that aspect.
Cool.
I agree. It's a challenging problem, by the way.
It's a challenging problem. So I'd love to, we have the no matrix organization. We have the stable counterparts. This is not against any of them because there's no dotted lines. So as long as there's no dotted lines, I'm good. I'm willing to try this. I totally agree. Like 4 work streams is just not doable. Like if it was 2 kind of front-end groups under one manager, I can see that happening. But like 4 doesn't work. I think I'd love to see a new paragraph and header on the leadership page to talk about these trade-offs. Like, hey, if it's just 2 groups, we'll combine it in a functional manager. If it's 4 plus we know we can find people who know both things well, we'll do it. And then our checks and balances is that in the engagement survey, we'll split the survey results between the single function and the multi-function managers and see whether the career progression as experienced by these B people is worse. Or we split it not just by manager, but also between like the people who have B who report to an A manager or something like that. I want to see like how we're gonna know if something is off.
I can definitely talk to the forces that are associated with this. In particular, when we originally came up with the functional team structures, we were really expecting that we were going to grow out most teams to be, I'll say, a much larger size. Since we've slowed down in hiring, that's kind of put pressure on us, but we still want to have breadth. So that's really the reason why we have this kind of thing of really a need for combined teams. I'll watch the video afterwards and I'll try to figure out how to incorporate the second part of that, which is the aspects of thinking about it in terms of making sure that career progression happens from that perspective. Cool.
How many of these managers do we foresee at this point?
We have, I think, 8 combined teams right now, believe it or not, already. So this is kind of something that's been going on where either a back-end or front-end manager has been doing this. Really, it's a recognition of this combined role to make sure that we recognize the manager. And
okay. So maybe instead of this survey forever, maybe we can just do a one-time survey and see if there's a difference between the career progression or satisfaction of these people.
Yeah, you could argue for the last year we've been doing this. So I think a point survey might make a lot of sense here to ask those teams to understand kind of where they think they're going for a career.
Yeah, probably we just did a survey, so we already have the results. We just need to split them, and we can tell someone in HR or something to do that to preserve anonymity, but still get the data we need.
Okay, cool. That's a great idea.
Thanks.
No problem. Great, you're up.
Yeah, just curious. I was actually looking for this earlier today. Are there any fiscal year 22 Q1 OKRs outlined yet, even in draft form?
You've caught me cold. No, I've started off the new year, and that's on my list to get moving here. I'm trying to remember what the date is for executives as far as the calendar goes to get that, but that's the assumption is that we're going to be working on it this week and into the next week.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Cool. Mac, you have the next question?
Yes, thank you for that. So really excited and congrats on migration off of Font Awesome. Woohoo! And I see it listed under performance as well. So we are making GitLab look better and also faster. Any insights from you on improvements of speed and how what we gain here? Maybe anyone in development can chime in.
Yeah, I don't have my participant list up, but I'm wondering if Tim Zalman is on the call.
Yes,
Tim, are you on?
I am here. We have seen a reduction in bandwidth usage. We haven't seen anything directly on the LCP because it was loading after we have seen the first largest contentful paint. But we have definitely seen some less bandwidth and also less rendering time. But it was very hard before the holidays to measure, as there were also very changing times how much usage we were seeing. So we are currently looking into the details to identify also more performance goals over the next weeks. And thanks to Martin Wojcik for driving this over the last couple of months, as this was really an epic of, I think, 150 or 170 issues that were all distributed across multiple teams, mainly front-end engineers, but also back-end engineers chipping in, UX designers chipping in. So this was a very good example of something like a long-term activity. So thanks to him and everyone who did one of those issues.
Thanks, this is really great. We all know that refactoring is hard, and this is a really great accomplishment. Congrats. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for all the hard work there by everyone on the team. I really appreciate all the work there. Cool. We'll go on to the next question. Sid, you're up.
Yeah, I saw that RealTime is getting close to completion. Super exciting. What percentage is it on for GitLab.com right now, or can be an indication?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm hoping John Hope might be able to help us out. He's on the call, or was briefly.
Yeah, John. It's not on for .com at the minute. We had an issue with some memory. We had a memory issue with Workhorse, and we wanted to switch it off and then do a readiness plan before we roll it out again. We want to have separate infrastructure to serve WebSocket requests through the new Kubernetes infrastructure. So we're preparing the readiness review to roll that out. The feature is available to self-hosting customers, though, who wish to switch it on. So there is that.
What was the high watermark on GitLab.com?
Sorry, what do you mean?
The high watermark would be the maximum percentage we ever rolled it out. It can be like the maximum we ever pushed it was 1%, or we got the memory problems at 25%.
Yeah, we switched it on, I'm pretty sure, for all of .com. So we rolled it out on a project basis, and then we switched on for the whole of .com, and we started to see memory issues, if I recall correctly, a couple of weeks after we switched it on. And our investigations sort of hint that it might not actually be related to WebSockets and to Action Cable, the memory issue, but we can't say for sure, and so we're doing the readiness plan to be sure.
Cool, very exciting. When will merge request reloads be a thing of the past, where like you click some things on the merge request and it says, please reload in order to merge this?
I can't say, but I can say that like if that's coming through WebSockets, like I can say that the first thing you'll notice is assignees on issues. After that, it's as fast as we can move things over to WebSockets.
Sid, I can add that we in code review want it as bad as you. And in preparation for that, we have been porting part of the merge request widget into GraphQL in preparation for the upcoming. Once RealTime is ready, we'll be able to leverage it much better by having it in GraphQL. Phil has been working on that. I'll link the epic if you want to take a look.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, RealTime is easier with GraphQL than with REST. Can you maybe elaborate a few seconds on that?
So I can give my perspective, please, John, fill in if I miss anything. So one of the possibilities going forward is to leverage GraphQL subscriptions. And merge request widget front-end code base was legacy and old. By updating that, we'll be in a better position to then jump over to GraphQL subscriptions if that's the solution that we're pursuing. Whether it's that or WebSockets, will be better equipped. It's a step in that direction.
Yeah, and because if you use REST, how would you do it if you used REST?
You'd still have to open a WebSocket connection. I think the reason we're going with GraphQL subscriptions is we want to get it right now when we do the first feature, and then we'll document it really well so other people can come along and build on top of it. And it just helps. I think, I can't remember exactly why. I'll need to go back into the literature, and we're preparing a design doc as well on the working group page. So you'll be able to find out why these decisions were made. But yeah, I think GraphQL subscriptions make a lot of sense. And then once we have the documentation for others, it should be relatively easy to create new features using WebSockets.
Cool. When will we have real-time issue editing? I know there's no answer to this. Just wanna tease everyone. Like, and the underlying reason is like we use Google Docs a lot in this company, and we should be using GitLab, and we could if the issue description was something that you could collaborate on, and then the meeting could just be in the issue instead of in a Google Doc.
Yeah, I could put my tongue on my cheek and say when product prioritizes this, but I think it's
I think that's a valid answer. Yeah, no, and I'm going to be. Well, we have to be ready shifts because I'm going to be all over them of prioritizing this.
Well, we have to be technically ready too from that regard. But yeah, we should be pushing product as well to use the product as much as possible. So that's a good point from that perspective. Cool. All right, and Sid, you have question number 7.
The IC working group is zeroing in on option 6. What's option 6?
Yeah, option 6 is referred to as double N because we had obviously a bunch of different options before option 6. Not any kind of reference to any old either TV series or something else. Basically, I'll kind of do a high level synopsis, which is we would add a principal role, so there'd be actually a similar level of distinguished as a director, principals at senior manager, staff as at manager. We default to 1 staff per what we call work group and a principal per senior manager, though there's probably some work that we have to do there because I don't want to necessarily prohibit us too much there. But we still want to obviously keep numbers representing our business needs. Technical leverage highlighted in role description, so making sure that people understand this is really a leveraged role rather than just what we'll call a super developer. 4 archetypes help define how multiple staff plus engineers engage and are referenced by exceptions. I can't remember the archetypes off the top of my head, so apologize for that, but we do have that documented. And a whole bunch of notes about exceptions associated with that. And then department heads have a budget based on gearing ratio. They can make trade-offs exceptions for trade-offs or potentially going over budget associated with that. So that's kind of the thought process right now. And that's all documented in the working group minutes, as well as the scoring sheet.
Thanks.
No problem. Cool. Well, we've reached the end of questions, and I don't like to keep people from their busy days. I want to welcome everybody again to the new year, and thanks for a great group conversation. I really appreciate everybody's feedback and input. Thanks, everybody.